Let's now move ahead with the first panel discussion for today, which is on AI, from hype to its impact. Real-world AI applications addressing operational challenges and the future of work in the age of AI. While this other stage up, I will introduce our panelists and also the moderator. First, the panelist, Mujay Singh, Chief Operating Officer, Tridents. Joining him is Raja Mansukhani, Chief Strategy, Technology and Transformation Officer, Comviva. Joining them is Devesh Sharma, Vice President, Data and AI in CEDO. Also joining them is Praneet Singhal, Director, Technology and Internet, One Lattice. And this session will be chaired by Arjun Yadav, Senior Correspondent, BW Business World. Yes, please welcome them with your applause.
Good morning, everybody. Just last week, I was in a conversation with a top IBM executive, and he said that the era beyond 2025 will mark the shift of from hype to real experimentation. So that statement was kind of in sync with the topic that we are talking today, where we're looking at the use cases, how much of it is hype, how much of them have matured. And if you look at the developments that have happened in the last 2 or 3 quarters, Satya Nadella just last quarter was quoted saying that every product at Microsoft is now becoming Copilot. Every third day, you hear a Silicon Valley executive talk about how codes are being written by AI, illnesses being diagnosed, right? Closer home, you see Tata Consultancy Services training 150,000 of its employees in generative AI use cases. But with this impact also comes disruption. And I think this particular point resonates more with the masses, which is regarding job losses. IBM CEO Arvind Krishna talking about nearly 30% of back office roles being replaced. But at the same time, Accenture talking about AI actually augmenting these job roles, right? In fact, being a force multiplier. So given all of these developments, panelists, today we'll talk, of course, about how these use cases have matured, but we'll also talk about the impact. So my first question, and in your opening comments, if you could talk upon how in these last 2 years you've seen the maturing of these use cases, and in particularly, your businesses from your vantage point, how sort of tangible outcomes have these or any use cases have delivered, if you could elaborate on that. Mujay Singh ji, if you would like to start.
Hello. Well, thank you. Thanks for inviting. 2 years is a long time in this field that we are in. It's evolving pretty much at every 3 months. When you break it down, I think AI is such a broad term, and we kind of club everything in that. So we do AI services for a living. We are a AI data company. There are 3 things that happens in AI. One is generative, where you're creating content based using a tech. The second is predictive, and which is we are trying to look at heuristic data and correlating multiple data points. We're trying to predict what's going to happen. And the third is deep learning. Right? These are broadly 3 different buckets. Generative, we have made immense progress. And I think if I put the dots in terms of hype versus reality, generative is doing fairly well. Predictive by nature is very, very hard. And I do not think we can ever take humans out of predictive business. It's going to be machines cannot predict. Deep learning is a little bit about heuristic, right? If the machine can see similar patterns and kind of tell you that this has happened in the past, they'll be able to do it. So from a hype to reality perspective, we as a company are in this business where we build scale systems for some of our clients to actually deploy things which can be rolled out for like 100,000, 200,000 people and leverage that. So it's becoming much more real now. And I think in the next 2 years, we'll see large scale industrial scale application of these being built.
Right. Thank you for that. Those opening comments, Divya. Your quick thoughts on how is that evolving, and if you could also elaborate on the distinction that Mr. Munjay Singh gave between generative and predictive thing.
Yeah, and I think, from predictive is always there. So the conventional AI, where we would use typical, classification, regression algorithms, that has been there for many, many years now. However, generative AI, which almost got democratized in 2023, end of 2022, it's a big step change. It's not a linear change. It's a big step change that kind of got everyone surprised. And things have moved from paranoia to, openness to hype and to now impact. So I think the right title for your keynote should be From Hype to Impact, because experimentation has been going on since 2022. Now organizations like the one where I work in CEDO, we are looking at 30-35% productivity impact in applications, in functions, not only use cases but across functions, whether those are call center operations, those are document operations, those are software engineering processes. The impact is huge. Of course, as we look at the impact, there is a hard road to walk on. Like it's not that easy. Mm-hmm. You need a process, you need capabilities, you need a cultural mindset shift. All that has to combine in combination to the technology, innovation, and the last mile changes that you need to really convert from hype to impact. That whole journey. We still need to. Some organizations have started working. Organizations like mine are in the process where we have seen some impact, huge impact, and there are ones which are still going to start. So I would say better we get started sooner than later, because this is how the coming world of next 5-10 years is going to look like.
Thanks, Divya. Pranit, your quick opening thoughts on this?
Yeah, so as has already been spoken in terms of how we were first very surprised, very curious in the last couple of years. What will happen with AI. Today also we see that the roles, as we say, talk about customer service. That has really been like that. We deal in market intelligence, and we talk to a lot of customers in terms of what makes them feel good about a particular service. We heard about some food delivery apps where people were very happy with a lot of those chatbots. Now it's gone to the next stage in terms of how it is able to give a complete solution also. We are seeing a lot of other stuff in terms of how do you then measure it as well, right? In terms of, we have all seen how the startup ecosystem has been in terms of funding, and the focus has been shifting from more revenues to profitability, and this has really enabled that. What becomes important is how we not make ourselves just dependent on it, but use it for further benefit.
Right.
Very important for our team members to see how they can utilize this AI to work smarter rather than just working hard. And in fact, I was just reading very recently, someone turned down a job because it required her to work on Saturdays. The reason is you could get burned out. Now, if you are smart with your work, you can be as productive in 5 days as someone would feel you are in 6 days.
6 days, right. Right, thank you. Mr. Mansukhani, your quick thoughts on this, and then I'll just ask a connected question from something, taking from Praneeth.
Sure. Thank you so much. Firstly, glad to be here, and some very wise words by Kanik sir as well as Dr. Batra. Loved the angle of technology to philosophy. Lot to think on that. But coming back to the question, I think the panel has already elaborated and nicely described the distinction and the impact. Let me add another dimension to it and make it more contextual, right? So Comviva is a software product company. And the topic from hype to impact. So it's very important for us to stay focused and find the relevancy. What's in it for us? What's in it for our clients? Otherwise, it's a big universe that you can get lost into, right? So let me give you some real example of this. So for us, AI is a foundational layer for our moving forward roadmap and how we build that. So we've created a 4-track framework, very focused. We are a product company, product enablement is sitting at the core of it. Yeah, so differentiation, we're using AI for differentiation. Whether it is using, whether it's using hyper-personalization as a use case, or even credit scoring, or even looking at conversational AI, right? Obviously, a lot of it is Gen AI driven, supported by agentic as well. The second area is productivity. Very important for engineering excellence. And I think the point that was covered by Praneeth earlier is an important core part of it, right? And the benchmarks are, I think Divya mentioned it also, 30 to 40% are very right, relevant and real benchmarks.
Right.
And you can see that happening very quickly. So that's a huge impact. And how do you carry people together in this journey is the key part of change management, right? The third area for us is how do you pre-bundle AI into products so that your traditional way of doing change management in products is changing very rapidly. So how do you pre-bundle that and create that differentiation for your customers? One other area which we don't talk enough about is using AI for cybersecurity. You know, we talk about governance for AI, but AI for governance also is a very good one. So that focus is important for your clients as well as for your industry and your nature of service, whether it's products or anything else. If that doesn't happen, then what will happen is we'll keep getting distracted a lot. I think it was mentioned earlier that 2 years is a long time, which is absolutely right. Things are evolving so fast. So making sure that the contextual part of rolling out AI is essential in driving focus.
Right. Very rightly put, Mr. Mansukhani. And, just picking up from the conversation that we were having before our panel, when we were talking about human resistance, and, Praneeth, you also briefly touched upon it in your opening comments. I want to understand on the operation hurdle side when it comes to deploying these use cases in organizations. And in India, we have example of Air India, India's flag carrier, when their digital transformation was underway, when they were trying to deploy AI in their customer reservation system, they had massive internal resistance. So if you could tell on such operation hurdles probably and human resistance.
I think I can be open and say this, that the challenge with Air India would not be a challenge only with Air India.
Yeah, obviously.
It would be cutting across all organizations. Of course, the scales vary. But let me give you again a very real and authentic example. So when we were doing this very early, right? Like I said, engineering practices and engineering excellence are like really quick wins. When you look at it, 30% productivity, straight adding to your bottom line. Shareholders love it. Yeah. And it should be done overnight. Yeah, but then we forget the part of human intelligence. Yeah, human intelligence will provide resistance to artificial intelligence in a way. So this is where you need to make it, how do you say, as a partnership rather than a replacement. I think there are a lot of things that people on the ground can focus on. I mean, I can give real examples, architecture, right? Being part of roadmaps, solving real problems, debugging, those are the things the developers can focus on. Right. And the grunt from that particular ecosystem can be taken away. So in our situation also, we went through that process. We gamified the process also. It's important to recognize when change is happening. So we gamified the process right from the top and handled it as a change management exercise, a cultural change management exercise rather than a technology change management exercise. And it has done really well for us.
Yeah, Mr. Singh, please.
So when you look at what makes us human, is our ability to take decisions. Memory is pretty much taken over by computers. Right? I don't need to memorize phone number, address, and a lot of information. The distinction we have is a decision making. In my experience, we have implemented systems where the biggest challenge is a human to trust a decision taken by a machine and live with the consequences of the decision is very hard. So the biggest operational hurdle of all this new tech is, how do I trust a decision being taken by a machine and live with that decision? If I, as a human, I take a decision, I live with the consequences of the decision that is taken by me, based on my risk profile, based on my experience. But a computer will take a decision based on a collective risk profile and a collective decisioning intelligence. Right. So how do you build systems where you can still bring the human over the loop on an AI system to build that trust and decisioning. And this is something which is very hard to do. And one of the biggest hurdle we have experienced when we roll out decisioning system is to create that trust in the decision-making system.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of masses will resonate with this argument made by Mr. Singh when recently, if you would have read some of the complaints of some users of ChatGPT on their latest model on it validating almost everything that they used to ask. So they didn't get that confidence on whether what we are writing, what we are asking, or what the prompt is it something that is actually correct, or this is something what that model is just validating. So very rightly said, Mr. Singh. Divya, if you would like to add it.
Yeah, I'll just elaborate a bit more to
please.
what my fellow panelists mentioned. So see, all the challenges are related to AI at scale. So AI as a pilot is more like a first date, right? So everything is charming, everything is good, and AI at scale, where you actually operationalize it, deliver impact from it, is more like a marriage. So you really have to do it if you really know it well. So those are the challenges. And how do you move through these challenges? Again, I feel there are tech challenges, there are strategy challenges, and then there are people challenges. I wouldn't say that it's just people, but because these are three big layers that across which you have series of challenges. Now within tech, it is the data. So prior to GenAI, everything related to data was more of a structured data. NLP was there, but the promise of it was never delivered. Now the data is documents, videos, images, so the entire data has changed. So the data lakes were never created for that. So that's one big challenge. Ensuring your data infrastructure is ready for GenAI is number one priority. Number two is getting accuracy from GenAI. If somebody says that GenAI would deliver 95% accuracy all the time, that's wrong. You would start with 60%, 65%, and then taking it from 60% to 95% is a big challenge. There you have to use contextualization. Now in IDC, we use not just the LLM models, but we use the power of ontologies, knowledge graphs to ensure that the AI is grounded with the domain expertise through ontologies. So that's the second challenge, right? Data, one, contextualization, second, and third is responsible AI, because you need to have guardrails, you need to have privacy, PII data protection, all those, transparency, all those has to be enabled as a part of it. So those are tech challenges. The second layer which I talked about are strategy challenges. Now, while you do it, before you do it, you have to ensure you pick up something which delivers high business impact. Because the cost of GenAI is high, the total cost of ownership skyrockets, dramatically within 3 to 4 months. So ensuring you pick up the right use cases which deliver a high impact is very important. And the third is people challenges, adoption. Adoption is where, the rubber meets the road, right? So ensuring you have customer success managers, that's how we do it, and we've learned it hard way. There have been series of pilots that we never went into production. Ensuring that the adoption is done properly, successful, the UX design of the systems is easy to use, and of course there's a human element of engaging the workforce who's going to use these tools and platforms is very, very important. So if we have to move from a date to a marriage, or from pilot to production, in which case there's a big chasm, to ensure that we cross to that, all these challenges have to be taken care of.
Right, very rightly put. Divya, you would quickly want to compliment.
Yeah, so I'll just talk about something that we use day in and day out at One Lattice. So we do a lot of market intelligence for our clients, and which is very much primary research based. There are obviously a lot of talks in terms of how a lot of primary research could be done through AI, but I think we are still some way away because of the real human element and how we could improvise a lot and establish that connect. But we would always do a lot of secondary research to form a baseline.
Yeah.
Now, typically you do that, you do a lot of Googling, reading around. It takes a lot of time. And we would typically put about 20% of our effort going into that. Now, what has happened with OpenAI is that we've been able to reduce that to say less than 5%. It gives us a very good baseline to work on, a lot of aspects that we could have forgotten, all the basic things. You get a response and you also get a prompt. Would you also want to know this? Right? And it triggers a thought. And ultimately what all this does is it helps the team succeed more. They need lesser guidance from their superiors. Their superiors could think of something different which could help their own growth. Right. So ultimately it has overall helped increase productivity. As has been mentioned, we really need to coach the teams well so that they see it more of a partner, right, rather than as a competition or a resistance.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Praneeth. Mr. Mansukhani, let me get back to the aspect of jobs, which I mentioned at the beginning, where I talked about how TCS is training 150,000 of its employees in use cases. And then we have these two sides where one, we have estimates of back offices roles being cut, but at the other hand, we have, job roles being augmented, rather AI being used as a force multiplier. So how do you see these two sides, and with these use cases now being deployed, what sort of new job roles? I know it's more a question relevant to the CHRO of your organization, but I think you will surely have some visibility on it when I...
No, it's a very good question and a question close to my heart. So thanks for asking.
Yeah.
So one thing, and I'll bring in a bit of a paradigm shift here, that in Comviva, we have adopted a mentality called as AI first. So it doesn't matter which function you belong to, whether it's HR, finance, marketing. So that leap of faith is taken. New hiring by default has an element of AI. So like I said, it's a paradigm shift, yeah? But that element of AI is there. Of course, we need to prioritize. When we have to look at our sort of capability to deploy and maximize the use of AI across the organization, we have to prioritize products, support, etc., in that order. But it cuts across all functions. To supplement that, what also happens is you need to upskill. And upskilling is a key element for us to make sure that there is a sense of security and that there is a sense of progression. Otherwise, there's a sense of replacement which comes in. So something that we have done within the organization, we have introduced a framework called as ATC, Awareness, Training and Competency. Awareness for all, training for all functions. Competency is where we create certified experts.
Right.
So it doesn't miss out anyone, but it needs to make sure that in this AI journey, everybody is moving forward together. And the new hiring, AI becomes a subset irrespective of the function that you belong to.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mansukhani. Mr. Singh, you would like to add something on this?
Sure. My take is the old jobs will go away, and that is real. But the new jobs will get created. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by old jobs will go away. Look at most of the business process world. They'll get platformized, and the job of moving data from A system to a B system, which is what most of the BPM companies do, that all that work will get, most of it will get automated. But the new jobs will get created. If you look at coding, for example, we're talking about 30-40% coding productivity, especially where the software is same, right? If you're working on a product, you can achieve 30-40%. If you're doing custom-built software for multiple companies, then it's hard to get to 30-40%. But what will happen is the new tools will come, like cursor.ai. Using cursor.ai, I can generate code in like 2 hours, what somebody would take like maybe a week to generate, right? But what will happen is the amount of code which is going to get generated would be exponential. So we need folks who can then dramatically control the amount of codes getting generated. If you take agentic, for example, right? We are talking about multiple agents which will talk to each other and orchestrate a larger task. Now, if you need a larger task to be orchestrated through multiple agents, you need an orchestrator overall, right? Which is, in a way, it's kind of creating a software which has a collective intelligence and an isolated application intelligence. So if there is a collective intelligence that is going to be built into the system, then the collective intelligence needs to be managed differently than individual intelligence which is being managed today in isolated application. So these all, and we are seeing this, right? When I build agentic today for some of the banks or for a CPG company, we built agentic. We realized the number of people that required to build it was actually very small. The number of people required to run it effectively and get an ROI of what we have built is like almost like 7-8 times. As of today, because eventually we'll get tools to optimize some of this work, but the work will require a lot more effort on this managing and orchestrating some of these. And that is why, I talked about the Indian IT and Indian technology landscape. If you look at, as an industry, we are like $250+ billion industry. And I think if we are able to reskill the workforce, and I'm very glad to see some of these large companies, I used to be at one last year, one of the number 2 companies in India. This large-scale reskilling will enable the workforce in India to be able to support this orchestration of complex tech which is going to evolve. So net, I think we'll see destruction of current job profile that we have in the market, but we'll see a humongous creation of new job profile. Now that may not be the same workers, it could be a different set of people who might come into the workforce.
Right. Thanks, Mr. Singh. Divya, you would like to add probably more from a technological perspective where you would have more insights on why exactly this change is happening and that balance between hiring and upskilling.
Yeah, and I think I agree with Mr. Singh, like there are 3 buckets of jobs. Some jobs will go, right? Some jobs will evolve, and then some new jobs will be created. I think, and it's very similar to, tractors in farming or fertilizers in farming, because human beings actually overall impact was positive. And this is what we're going to see with AI. Human beings are going to solve next level problems in the years to come. Now, how do we democratize this? The second problem is, how do we democratize it across the organizations, which is what a lot of, if you are a CXO or a leader in your firm, you might be thinking about or taking steps in that direction. So I can share some nuggets on how we are doing it at Incedo. Number 1 is ensuring that we use AI tools. So at least we work with mostly clients in US and EMEA regions. So we have, discussed with them and got the, approvals to ensure that we are able to use tools, whether those are cursor AIs or copilots or Replit, right, for software engineering. So that is one area which is already getting disrupted. The second area is operations. A lot of paper operations, wealth management firms, banking firms. They're picking up, reading the PDFs, extracting numbers out of it. All those, jobs are kind of moving to a next level altogether, right? Getting automated, and then that is where also agentic workflows are disrupting the entire end-to-end processes, which is right. Pick up the documents from emails, run the AI on top of it, get the final output, send it to someone. We are still not fully there. Like, we are piloting with that, right. But I believe in the next 18 months, a lot of organizations are going to be there, right? So that is the second kind of job. Third is kind of your customer service kind of jobs, where as a co-pilot, we see 20 to 30% questions from the customers can be self-serviced, and then 70% can be automated through a co-pilot. So that is going to see disruption. Yeah. So now, how to democratize it? Coming back to it, use the tools, ensure that is taken care of. Your workforce uses that. Second is the human element to it, because democratization always needs to have that human touch. And what we have seen working really well is having a centralized COE of builders within the organization, and then a big pool of users, and ensuring that these builders and users, there are champions who take it from the builders to the users, and within users there are champions who take it to many. So from 1 to many, ensuring that democratization is very, very important with the human touch to it.
Right. Thanks, Divya. Pranit, very quickly your take on it, and then we'll have some concluding comments from each of us.
So I'll give an example of how IT as a generation had a shift, say about 15 to 20 years back. So traditionally you would have all hardware as on premise. It would require a lot of infra at the office, a lot of individuals who would manage it, and all different sort of challenges. That time we moved to cloud. Right? It made manageability easier. You didn't need to manage the hardware or replace it also. Your cloud provider would do that for you. And you didn't need that particular stuff. Now again, they evolved with different skills. And what happened? Cloud actually enabled greater access. Earlier, only large businesses could manage an on-prem setup for all their applications. Even basic things as email required on-premise.
Right.
Now, with this, we could probably look at the next stage where with AI, we could be enabling the reach to even greater penetration, right? Which could make things more accessible. And if there are more users, more businesses requiring, there is definitely a lot of scope for new use cases for people to develop. A lot of new jobs could get created, all those opportunities. In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine who used to be a consultant before and then went into the tech side. He just feels that there are a lot more new products that could get developed, right? If we keep thinking only of what has been there for the last 5 years, definitely jobs are going to reduce. But there's a lot more new that could come in.
Absolutely. Mr. Mansukhani, we have some 3 minutes left. I'll take one concluding thought from each one of you. What would be your advice, given the discussions that we've had this morning, for organizations who are probably still at their early stage of deployment? What lessons should they keep in mind? What mistakes they should make? If on that note, you could end this.
So, some of the learnings from this that we have incorporated, one thing is very clear. We are not at the stage of technology evolution. It's not incremental. This is a revolution. We have to acknowledge that, accept that. It's a matter of making sure that staying competitive and staying relevant in this world, this is not optional, at least in our industry. Yeah? Sorry, I'm just speaking from a software product company standpoint. So it's not an evolution, it's a revolution. And the mindset for that needs to shift very quickly. Very, very important. Second thing is that the kind of opportunities that AI is creating. Yeah, I think Praneeth mentioned some very good points as well. The number of entrepreneurs, single owner entrepreneurs being created through AI, right? We're talking about losing jobs. But when we talk about the positive side of things, the level of career paths that people can sort of visualize for themselves, moving away from coding and doing strategic stuff or looking at things in terms of building new stuff, opens up a lot of opportunities as well. So in conclusion, I would say that please look at it from a perspective of mindset shift. Look at it as something which happens once in a generation. It's a revolution. Adopt it, accept it, and move at pace. The traditional way of doing things, typical project plans, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, those are no longer relevant in this space. When you try a use case and then you expand it horizontally, the kind of value it delivers is high impact. Yeah.
Right.
So it's essential, like I said, to unlearn a lot of things that we have learned, but at the same time, that mindset shift to adopt and accept and then explore the possibilities is the way to forward. But it has to be focused.
Right. Thanks, Mr. Mansukhani. Praneeth, your quick take, your word of advice.
I think a lot of it has been very well summarized in terms of, obviously we know we have to embrace it. We just need to guide the teams well. It has to happen from the top, right? The leaders have to first understand its importance, because it ultimately obviously drives a lot of revenue and business also for teams. And throughout in all of the interactions and internal meetings, if the right intent is being asked about how this adds value, how you create an overall environment that fosters it, whether it is in terms of having good data collection or educating people in terms of how to use it very ethically, right? And so all these things, and I think there are a lot more things to take care of. It's a very evolving field for everyone to do. But yeah, I think we will have to embrace it whether we want it or not.
Absolutely. Divya?
I think just taking for what Praneeth said, so embrace it, that's the starting point. And then how to do it, pick up your top functional areas which will drive impact, right? So pick those. Don't rush into it. Pick those top areas to start with, because it's a Pareto rule everywhere. 20% of the work you do can drive 80% of impact. So once you've picked up those areas, see what is the underlying layer of data platforms you need. Are you there? If you're not using cloud, you're using on-prem, then you will have some more challenges to take care of. So look at that layer. Where are you in that maturity? Do you need to improve that? Once you've done that, or then look at how do you build AI in parallel. And we call it as the speed 2 approach. Speed number 1 is build it for high impactful use cases, just run initial runs on that. And speed 2 is productionalize it end to end so that you're able to deliver the impact. But the message is, if you've not started, start now. If you have started, see if you have chosen the high impact areas. If you have chosen the high impact areas, look at the layers. Are they ready? If you have looked at the layers, then see if your AI is best in class. And if you think you need help from outside, do get help from outside.
Quite a comprehensive roadmap. Thanks, Divya. Mr. Singh, your quick thoughts.
See, time is up.
Yeah.
Two quick things which we do. One is build for scale. AI is no longer about doing use cases. So build for scale. And my second advice is don't limit it to few. The tool gives you power to build. So even if you're not a techie, you can build software now. You can use this tech. So everybody must use and build for scale.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Audience, can we please have a big round of applause for our panelists? I think they've really given a good start for the future panels to take some cues from this discussion. And I think this is clearly one of those panels which will resonate well with our online audience and masses as well. Thank you so much, panelists.